When my cousin Cody and I were in our early 20s, we went on a handful of camping trips around Colorado. We'd grown up close, more like brothers than cousins, and camping was our way of escaping work, noise, and responsibility. This particular trip happened when I was 22 and Cody was 23, somewhere deep inside Erpo Forest. It was my first time camping there, but not his. Cody had been there several times before and knew the area well. One advantage we both had was that our jobs gave us weekdays off instead of weekends. We deliberately planned our trips for the middle of the week to avoid traffic, crowds, and noisy families. It made the wilderness feel more authentic. I always let Cody take charge on these trips. He was the Eagle Scout, the prepared one, the guy who knew how to read a map and pitch a tent in minutes. I just followed his lead. We parked near a small picnic area and started hiking from there. After about 15 minutes of heading deeper into the woods, Cody found a clearing he liked. It was just large enough for 2 tents, a portable stove, and a campfire. That was his definition of a good spot. We unpacked our gear and set up camp. As usual, Cody had his tent up in only a few minutes. Hustle. It took me over 20. It always did. Honestly, that trip was the last time I ever camped in the wilderness. After the tents were up, we built a ring of stones for the fire and gathered sticks and fallen wood. Cody had brought fire starters and a lighter. So yeah, we cheated a little. The sun was already beginning to set when we finally got the fire going. Cody started grilling steak and burgers, and the smell filled the clearing. One thing about him, he never messed around with food. He went all out every time, and he was genuinely good at it. I always trusted him completely when it came to feeding us. We had bear spray nearby, just in case the smell attracted a black bear, though Cody always said it was extremely unlikely. According to him, the real thing to worry about in the woods wasn't animals. It's people, he always said. As we ate, we cracked open a few beers and played classic rock through a small speaker. If you've never camped like this, you don't understand how perfect moments like that feel. Just firelight, music, cold air, laughter, and nothing else in the world to worry about. When darkness settled in, we pulled out a small folding table we'd brought just for card games. We played a few traditional games, then switched to Uno. That's when everything changed. In the middle of a round, I heard something strange. I paused the music so the speaker went silent. At first I thought I imagined it, then I heard it again. Footsteps and humming. The sound was coming from beyond the tree line, deep in the pitch black forest. It was unmistakably human. Cody told me to grab the flashlight. I fumbled around, my hand suddenly clumsy, but by the time I found it, the sounds had stopped. Is that something to worry about? I asked. Cody didn't answer right away. Finally, he said, it's definitely unusual for someone to be this deep in the woods, especially walking past a campsite like that. We went back to our game, but the music stayed low. The vibe was gone. Without warning, a thick stick landed hard in the middle of our campsite. It didn't fall from a tree. It was thrown. We both jumped to our feet. Cody shouted into the darkness, swearing, telling whoever was out there to get a life and leave us alone. Moments later, we heard footsteps again, moving away this time. I told Cody we should pack up and leave. Oh no, he said firmly. I'm not in the dark. He reminded me we both had bear spray and told me to keep it inside my tent when we went to sleep. It was the closest thing we had to a ranged weapon. Over the next hour, we kept hearing sounds, branches cracking, footsteps shifting. These weren't animal noises. Someone was definitely out there. Maybe more than one person. Eventually, exhaustion won out. We agreed to take turns staying awake. Cody volunteered to take first watch, saying he'd read his book. I crawled into my tent and zipped it shut. Sometime later, I woke up suddenly. That alone wasn't unusual. Sleeping outdoors is uncomfortable. But something felt wrong. I looked up. There was a head peering into my tent. At first, I thought it was Cody. The darkness hid all details. I rubbed my eyes. Cody? I said groggily. Is it my turn? The head didn't move. Then the tent zipper suddenly closed. Fast, the head disappeared. I lay back down, confused, but only for a second. A surge of clarity hit me like ice water. I sat straight up and listened. Footsteps. Walking away. Cody? I whispered. No answer. I unzipped my tent and looked out. The fire was dead. The campsite was empty. I rushed to Cody's tent and unzipped it. He was asleep, Cold panic flooded my body. I shook him awake and told him someone was at the campsite. It took him a moment to process, but when he did, he grabbed his bear spray immediately. He admitted he must have dozed off. He told me to sleep in his tent. To do that, I had to grab my sleeping bag. Cody stood outside watching while I ran to my tent. As I grabbed my bag, I heard the humming again. Close. Cody whispered for me to hurry. We zipped ourselves into his tent and stayed awake for hours, bear spray in hand. I remember thinking, horribly, that I wished a bear would show up. At least then we'd know what we were dealing with. Morning eventually came. We packed everything up as fast as possible and hiked back to the car. Neither of us wanted to camp anymore. We just wanted to go home. It's been 6 years. Cody still asks me to go camping sometimes. I always decline. My dad used to tell me, don't fear ghosts, fear the living. I understand that now more than ever. Not long after my teenage years, I came into some money after my father died by suicide. He and my mother had owned a cabin near Mount Bachelor in Oregon, but after his death, my mom couldn't afford the payments. The cabin was set to be sold within the month and would remain vacant until then. I saw it as a chance to get away. I quit my job, packed my snowboard, brought my dog Midnight, and drove up in my dad's car. The first 2 days were peaceful. Snowboarding, playing with my dog, drinking, listening to music. I barely left the cabin. On the 3rd day, heavy snowfall kept me inside. That's when things changed. I noticed footprints in the snow around the cabin. They looked fresh, maybe 20 or 30 minutes old. I told myself someone else must be nearby. That night, Midnight suddenly perked up and ran downstairs. A while later, he dragged me outside, pulling toward the trees, staring into the darkness. Later, I heard footsteps on the roof. Then I saw it. A tall, pale humanoid figure crouched in a tree, its long arms gripping branches above its head, mouth wide open, unmoving. I backed inside and locked the door. For nearly an hour, something tapped on the glass. I felt like it wanted me to open the door. I didn't. I left the next morning. Years later, I almost walked into another nightmare, this time because of greed and curiosity. I was searching for a cheap iPhone online when I found an incredible deal. The seller insisted on meeting at a police precinct. Later, he changed plans and asked me to meet him on a dark roadside. I drove past, ignored his calls. Later, I saw him again inside a diner. Same voice, same man. We left fast. When I returned to my car later that night, my tire was slashed. Some people don't want your money. They want something else. I've learned one thing in life. The woods aren't haunted. People are.